are still getting used to it. Why don't you take that and leave it in the corner outside? Thank you. Today is called Ascension Sunday because what we have read in the Gospel reading is in part of the prayer that Jesus prays to his Father around the nature of the community that is here on earth, that he has gifted to the world as legacy of his teaching and time. When we look at this reading, though, from the Acts of the Apostles, we really get kind of an opened up understanding of what it means, this thing that we're charged with, to build and create community. What does that mean, and why is it so important? And again, part of why it's so important is revealed to us when we remember the context in which Jesus and his disciples lived and died. What we hear in the story in the Acts of the Apostles about Paul and Silas headed to Philippi is that they go into a situation in which, as they are preaching, something happens, right? We have this encounter in which kind of endangers what they're doing. And the encounter is quite specific. It's this young woman who is a slave. And her people who own her make money off of her apparent ability to forecast the future. What we learn in this moment, though, is from Paul and Silas' word, is that maybe it wasn't such a divine thing. And nonetheless, as she's following them, she keeps saying, look, these are slaves to the Most High God. And I think what they're responding to, Paul and Silas, in this sort of begone moment, I think they're responding to that accusation that they are slaves, like she is. And in the moment in which they turn and heal her, she is no longer a slave. That's an interesting kind of juxtaposition. She accuses them of being slaves, and they basically do something that heals her from being a slave. When they're thrown into jail, it's not just they're thrown into jail. We hear them quite specifically being taken to a marketplace. A marketplace. We know that marketplace where messages of hatred and division can be peddled alongside shaving cream and mouthwash. That somehow we are told that if we're truly American, there are people that we will hate, and there are people we will exclude. We know that marketplace and what is being peddled. But what we learn and see again and again in the gospel and in this reading from Acts is the response to messages in the marketplace for hatred and division can only be met with a greater power of the love that unifies and resists division and resists what it means when we are divided and the weakening of our citizenship. Because that is the context in which Jesus lived and the apostles lived under Roman occupation and empire, using the forces of fear to manipulate the people, to make people afraid of one another, and to rely on that fear as the power of empire. And indeed, our jailer in this story is as informed by operating under that occupation of fear and violence as are Paul and Silas, as is our slave girl in this story. In empire, everyone has a place, and it is a place of subjugation. When they are put into prison, we hear the rest of the story as perhaps the worst prison escape story in all of history. They have this opportunity, don't they? That what we hear in the story is this divine intervention of an earthquake prison and opens the gates of it apparently, but maybe even knocks the jailer unconscious because he's not aware of what's happening until later when he gets up. And also loosens the stocks in which the apostles have their feet and their arms. They're able to get out. And apparently, in the context of empire, escaping that prison is freedom. But Paul and Silas and God have a different kind of liberation in mind. They stay. Paul and Silas stay. Because freedom for them, in the true spiritual sense of faith, is not about escape, but about staying present, beyond the self. They know that the jailer is as much victimized by the domination system as they are. And so, when they see him finally awake and come in to see what perhaps they have escaped, that he's ready to take his own life because he knows the possible punishment that awaits him if he has allowed them to escape. But they are there. And they say to him, the person who's been a part of their own oppression, they say to that oppressor, keep your life. They say to him, we value your life more than the system that values none of us. And in that valuation of one another is the radical power to thwart what empire would have us believe. And so the three of them, then, together are truly saved. And in that moment, we have what today we might call restorative justice. Restorative justice is when those who perpetrated great wrong or harm are the same people who offer the opportunity for healing and restoration. It is challenging work to do, especially when someone is operating out and having benefit from being part of dominant culture. To set aside privilege for something far greater, the opportunity to be a stronger people together than apart. And so the jailer invites them to his home, and he takes water, and in these actions of restorative justice of the harms that have been done, he bathes their wounds. Do you notice how in this story, after the bathing of these wounds, we are told that the jailer and his household are immediately then baptized with the same water that he has used to bathe their wounds, that perhaps now has in it the swirling blood of that sacrifice and violence. With that same water, the apostles baptized him and his family. In that powerful, powerful image, we have the invitation in a nutshell of what our faith calls us to do. Our faith is not only about us. It is about one another. It is about recognizing where harms have been done to us, to others, and making actions, meaningful actions, that restore our community, our relationship with one another. Because by doing that, we restore a relationship with God and deepen that relationship in a way that's imaged for us in our gospel reading. When Jesus, right before the ascension, is praying for his apostles, and he's talking in this language that can kind of sound befuddling. God, I want them to be as one as we are one. I know that they're one. I know they understand I came. I want you and them and you and me. And it kind of goes on like that. You're going, what is he talking about? And it has to do with the fact that if God loved Jesus from the foundation of the world, that founding love is in each of us, for each of us, that we are to extend to every other being That foundational principle is stronger than any empire or force of division. It is our truest legacy and identity. It is the strength of God flowing in the Spirit in each of us to create unity and healing, and what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. referred to as the beloved community. The community in which love on its social sphere takes the form of justice. Our actions, like that of the jailer and prisoner, of the oppressor and the oppressed, our actions must be those that bring us closer to one another, that rebel against forces of division through that powerful foundational love that God asks us to make manifest in the world, that each successive generation since Silas and Paul have been asked to make real. Because the power of the ascension, of our ability to live in God, and God living with us, the power of the ascension isn't just about a story that happened long ago that we sort of think of as fire insurance for our future. It is intended rather to be a holy action ongoing in the force of the Spirit in every generation. We are invited to ascend beyond those messages, beyond a society based in division, beyond a world based in fear and self-interest, to create the world as God intended, of which we must be co-creators. A world where all people in the beloved community are valued, recognized for their dignity, restored by faith to the human community of equality for all. In Christ's name.